Chapter 13 of A Superfluous Woman by Emma Frances Brooke. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Bruce Peary. Jessamine felt herself to be as one sitting on a bare jet of rock, round which the tide creeps closer. And yet she thought that she could still escape. For 2 or 3 days she saw nothing of MacGillivray. In the mornings, the first touch of the sun woke her to immediate gladness of existence, and she would spring from her bed, an ecstatic sense of youth and health coursing through her limbs, dyeing her cheeks and shining in her eyes. At such moments she was as an untired swimmer in a sunlit sea, ungirt by visible shores, but leaned upon by a limitless sky. She worked so hard, and with such a flush of exuberant energy, with eyes so hopefully expectant, that Mrs. Mackenzie, watching her one morning at the ironing table, felt prompted to speak. She was sitting behind, nipping and pressing the edge of a cap with her fingers, and as she looked at the creeper-covered window, with the back of the slim girlish figure, over which she fancied the sun seemed glad to play, silhouetted against it, a maternal solicitude began to trouble her mild eyes. "Two will be in that task, I'm thinking, lassie," said she. Jessamine was pressing the iron upon a shirt of Mr. Mackenzie's. Mrs. Mackenzie, watching her steadily, saw the little ear and the curve of the cheek, just then daintily edged with light, flush. The gentle swaying movements of the ironing continued, but the figure seemed to quiver with consciousness. "Will some one be gathering and giving you the bit of white heather?" continued Mrs. Mackenzie in a low voice. There was no answer. The iron came down on the shirt sleeve with the deft firmness which had been learned from Mrs. Mackenzie herself. "They say," remarked the latter as firmly, "that luck's in marriage." These words hazarded, she looked for their effect. A second flush beat into the cheek and ear, one so deep that they must have smarted as from a blow. Then it drew away, leaving pallor. Mrs. Mackenzie's eyes filled with wistful alarm, but the patting of the ironing went on, and was continued until the shirt was folded. Then Jessamine looked round, and Mrs. Mackenzie found herself confronted with a pair of sad, inscrutable eyes, and the manner of the dominant class. "I have finished the shirts, Mrs. Mackenzie, and will go upstairs for a little. No, no one has gathered and given me a bit of white heather." In Jessamine's appearance, for the moment, was a curious resemblance to her Aunt Arabella, and upon this metamorphosis Mrs. Mackenzie gazed with eyes of penetrating mildness. Then Miss Halliday left the kitchen, the other remaining to her reflections. These were almost immediately broken by the appearance of John at the outer door. He had a spruce and brushed-up look, his skin shining above his dark beard, and his eyes cheerful with the prospect of adventure. "I must be going, Annie," said he, "but where will the bonny wee lassie be?" Mrs. Mackenzie moved her head in the direction of the inner door and staircase, without speaking. "She might be wanting something from town. Could we be calling her?" asked John, with the hesitating awe of high quality which still perplexed the more familiar relations. "John," said Mrs. Mackenzie, rising, "it seems to me as though I was seeing trouble coming." "Weel," said John, his radiance unabated, "if trouble's coming, we will just be sitting still and biding for it. We will not be saddling a horse and going out to meet it." "But," said Mrs. Mackenzie, "if we could be turning it into another road?" "Depend upon it, Annie, if we try, it will be making us carry it here ourselves. And what will be ailing you to talk of ill luck?" Miss Halliday's light step upon the stair dispersed Mrs. Mackenzie's slowly gathering answer, and the moment afterward the bright innocent face in the doorway shot a reproach right into her bosom. Jessamine walked up to John with a little bit of paper in her hand, and he greeted her with a smile of indulgent liking. "You are going to town," said she. "Will you do me a small errand?" "I will be most pleased." "It is only a little one. You see this name on the paper? It is the name of a journal which you can get from any of the large railway stations, if you will be so kind as to call there for me. It costs 1 shilling." "Oh, certainly," said John, taking the paper, and feeling in his pocket for his book. "But I will be losing this scrap o' writing, and indeed I had best be setting it just down in my book." He drew forth a pocket-book, and turned over the leaves. "Let me see," continued he, "where will I be? Oh, here, sale of corn at Cheshire, longhorn calf at Bulnabruick. That will be it. And now, what will I put down?" He examined the scrap of paper. "Oh, yes, Society's Whispers." He wrote the name down under the calf. "Oh, yes, indeed I will be most pleased to get it for you, Miss Halliday, and I will be bringing it back to you to morrow, whatever." Then he went out into the yard, and Jessamine followed to pat the horse on the nose, and to watch Mr. Mackenzie get into his trap and drive away. The red of her cheeks and the shining of her eyes caused him, throughout his journey, to smile again and again unwittingly. When he had gone, Jessamine returned to the kitchen, where Mrs. Mackenzie was bending over the fire to throw vegetables into the broth she was cooking. But when Mrs. Mackenzie caught sight of her standing in the cross light between the door and window, she looked her over steadily once more, while she continued stirring in the pot with a large wooden spoon. But she said nothing. "Let me peel the potatoes for you," said Jessamine caressingly. End of chapter 13.